Hello and welcome to 5.2 Lab 3. Let's go ahead and dive in, fill in the student's name section, open 5.2 lab3.js, and let's see what we got to do here with this two-part lab. The first one, we're going to write a program that we're going to ask the end user to put in a number. We're going to loop 10 times. In that loop, we're going to ask the user to enter a number. If they enter a value that's a number, we're going to add it to a total. If they enter a value that's not a number, we're going to tell them that they didn't enter a number, and we're going to stop our loop. And then we're going to output the number of times that the loop ran the total of all entered numbers. So an example here, the number of loops is 10, the total is 594. So let's see our planning list and see what we're going to do here. So in our planning list, I'm going to have three variables, a user num, a counter, and a total. And then my list of output variables is just going to be the counter and total. User num we're going to just add in. So we're going to assign the value of 0 to counter, value 0 to total, create a for loop, and using the counter, and I'm going to prompt the user for a number and store it in user num. Then I'm going to run user num through the number method, make sure it's a number, and then I'm going to test it with the is_nan function to see if it actually is a number. So if you have an end user that puts in information in a variable that's not a number, and then you try to run it through the number function, it's just not going to do anything. It's not going to convert text to a string to an integer. It's just going to leave it as a string. So then we need to run it through is_nan to make sure it is a number. And then if it's not a number, we're going to run a break statement to stop our loop. If the user num is a number, we're just going to add it to the total variable, output the number of loops using the counter variable and the total. So if I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, our counter should be 10, our total should be 55. If I put in 1, 2 and test, counter should be 2, and total should be 3. If I put in test, counter 0, because it did not run all the way through the loop, because I broke it, and then our total should be 0, actually, not 10. So let me run this a couple times so we can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see what our output was. Total number of loops 10, total 55. Let me try it again. 1, 2, and then the word test, and it stops it. Total number of loops 2, the total is 3. If I do it again here, and I just put in the word test, no number, to spell it correctly, it'll stop it. Total number of loops 0, total is 0. So let's see how we did that. So again, I have three variables, user num, counter, and total. I've set counter equal to 0 and total equal to 0. And I'm going to use that counter to loop through 10 times. For my counter as long as it's less than 10, counter plus plus, so it'll be 0 through 9. It'll loop through 10 times. I could have also set my counter equal to 1 and said, just as long as I set my conditional there is less than or equal to 10, I could have done it that way as well. You'll find that setting the initial counter to 0 is pretty common in JavaScript and programming in general. So then here I'm prompting user, please enter a number. And then I'm running it through the number function to make sure it is a number, so I can do the math. And then I'm testing it. If is_nan returns true, meaning is this not a number? Now that may be counterintuitive to what you're thinking, because user will say, hey, is that a number, yes or no? If it's, in this case, we're saying that we're asking the question, is the user num variable not a number? If that comes back true, if the answer is yes, that's not a number, then it's, well, not a number. It's a string, something else. So then we're using a break statement to stop our loop and kick out of it. So we stop the loop altogether. If that returns false, if is this not a number, and we say no, false, it is a number, then we're going to add it to our total variable here. And we're going to loop through 10 times or until they put in not a number, whichever comes first. And then we're going to use our counter variable, because we've been keeping track of our loops in our counter variable, to output the number of loops, and then output the total. Now let's jump to part 2 here and see what we got to do for part 2. So for part 2, we're going to access the employee payroll record set. We've done that in previous labs. We're going to access this, and we're going to say how many employees do we have that are making the same amount, meaning how many are making 15, how many are making 20, how many 25, and how many 30. And then I'll put the total for each in here. Now, let's talk about a little bit about reality here. In a normal company, you're going to have, it'd probably be rare unless everyone starts off when they start the company at the same salary, that before they get raises and merit increases and all that. It would be rare that everyone is going to be making the same amount, meaning these 5 people are all making $15 an hour, these 5 people are making $20 an hour, unless it's an entry-level position. But usually people's salaries fluctuate based on how long they've been with the company and merit raise increases, you know, for a job well done, those sorts of things, and maybe even part of their salary may be conditional, like with salespeople, that sort of thing. So if we were doing this in the real world, this would probably not be the best example unless we were saying how many of you make between 15 and 20 and those types of ranges. But in this case, we have set amounts. So the whole goal of this is to have you work with this record set, do some comparisons and some counting within those comparisons. So the output is going to be like this. Our hourly wage is 15, 20, 25, and 30. How many are in each one? Now, you could do this. The way I'm doing it is I'm making variables in my planning list here for each one, 15, 20, 25, and 30, and I'm making a count for each one. You could do this with one. And probably if I was doing this from a production level, I would probably have one wage variable, one count wage, and I would probably set up my loop a little more complex so that as my wages change, because there's no guarantee that 10 years from now we're still going to have a wage 15, we're still going to have a wage 20, wage 25, and wage 30. Things change in business, so it probably wouldn't be a good idea to do this in a production. But the goal of this lab is to see how you can grab record sets and loop over them, grab that data, and do some comparisons and some counts within them. So again, if I was doing a production, I'd probably have one wage variable, one count wage, and then do some comparisons. It would make our loop and our ifs a little more complex, but in this case, I just want you to see how we can grab them, put it in stuff, loop over it, do some if statements and things like that. Then we're going to output our wage variables and our count variables. So I'm going to create all those variables, and including the payroll records and stuff like that to loop over, and I'm going to store the values in their wage variables, and I'm going to open up the record set and store it in payroll records, use read next record to loop over, access the hourly wage by using the get employee hourly wage, and store it in the current wage variable. Then I'm going to use an if statement to compare what is our hourly wage with all the various current wage variables. If it returns true, I'm going to add it to the count. Sorry, I misspelled add there. Add it to the count, to the respective count wage variable, and output the variables to the screen. So I'm expecting it to look like this, and if you see from my output, it does look like that. So let's dive in. Let me show you how I did this. So again, I have all my variables, 15 through 30 for count, the actual wage, payroll records, and what my current is. Then I assigned the respective numbers to the wages and assigned 0 to all the current counts. And then I opened up the employee payroll records, which opens up that constructor box so that I can do things like read next record method. So we're looping over it like we've done in the past. And here I'm saying, take my current wage, make it equal to my get employee hourly wage method, which is grabbing that 15, 20, 25, or 30 value out of my array in the constructor. Now I have the console log here. You probably don't even need that. Get rid of that. I was just testing when I was developing and writing to the console log here, so we don't need that. And then I have if else if statements. So if my current wage is equal to wage 15, and I probably should use 3 equal signs there. Let me just change that real quick. So if my current wage is equal to wage 15, then we're going to increment, compound, add to our wage 15 count. So the first time it's going to be 0, it's going to add 1, then 2, and 3, and so on. And I'm doing that same thing with all of them with my else ifs, wage 20, wage 25, and wage 30. So now if I was doing this where I wouldn't use, we'd have various levels where it's not 15, 20, if I had just one, I would have to do some comparison that if current wage is less than or equal to and greater than or equal to, that sort of thing, then make this count, count wage, whatever that range is, add 1 to that, and else if it's less than that, add it to that. So I'd have to do less than, equal to, greater than, equal to, some ranges there. So in the real world, that's how you would probably do it. But in this case, we have some clean cuts between 15, 20, 25, and 30. So then I'm going to just output it in a tabular format on the page with our wage 15 and our count wage 15. So again, if I rerun that here, okay, let me get rid of that part 1 section, go to part 2, and it outputs there's 6 people that are making 15, 10 that are making 20, 10 that are making 25, and 8 that are making $30 an hour. So I hope that makes sense. Go through the code. Hopefully it works for you. If you have any questions, let me know, and happy coding.